Hey y'all, how y'all doing today? Yeah, I'm back again. I'm gonna try it again. I hope everybody's doing well out there and staying out the way. Well, one thing I want to do is apologize for when I did the haul. I made a couple mistakes there. I probably made quite a few. But one of the mistakes I made, I was so tired, I was sleepy and all, was with the paper plates. Remember I told y'all it was a 50 count, but actually it was a 100 count. Show you. It was a 100 count, y'all. And yes, it was $1.99, but it's 100. And they're pretty sturdy for that price, and you get so many. They're not the little small flimsy ones. They're pretty heavy. The other thing I wanted to show you that I didn't show you in the video because I couldn't find it at the time was the seafood season. I've never had this before. And I seen it and I thought I'd try it. I don't know how much it was because I threw the receipt away, but I don't think it was too much. And then last but not least, I think I told y'all hot sauce, that this was hot sauce. But it's the red hot sweet chili dipping sauce. So I've never tried this, and I'll try to see how it is. But I just wanted to go back and let y'all know that I was aware of the mistakes that I made, and I thought I'd show it to you. But one thing I want to talk about is the fact that a lot of times women that are in domestic abusive situations wind up homeless because they're involved with a narcissistic person, a narcissistic abuser. Now, a narcissist, here I go trying to pronounce certain words again. A narcissistic person is a person who thinks of no one but themselves, and it's mostly men that are narcissistic in that manner. They have no feelings, no empathy, and no concern for anyone else but themselves. Their relationships usually don't last that long because they are very controlling and they want everything their way. And a lot of times, because they're so controlling, is because they wind up becoming abusive mentally and physically. They have no concern for you or your feelings. They don't care what you're talking about because it always has to be about them. They never apologize or own up to anything that they do wrong. They always want to be the center of attention. And a lot of times, because of the selfish reasons, they wind up becoming abusers, physically and mentally. So therefore, once the victim wants to get out of this relationship, and she may flee the home with the children. If she has children, she'll flee the home. But she has to wind up coming back because she has no resources or very limited resources. And even if she could find housing or whatever, she may not be able to afford it. Because even to rent a room now, it's just as much as if you have a whole apartment. And at a time like this, it's very, very hard to find housing or to even probably get in the shelter because they're probably full as could be now with this virus going on. So a lot of times, either the victim winds up coming back into an abusive relationship, or if she has no support system, no friends, no family to help her, she winds up being in the street with children. And sometimes that's where she'd rather be until things get better rather than being in an abusive situation, because now the abuse is getting worse and much more dangerous, because now they are killing you. It's more and more homicides now concerning domestic violence. They also abuse the children. In a lot of cases, they kill the children. They abuse the pets as well. Now, what did pets do? What did the dog do? But they physically abuse the dogs. So if you feel as though you're in this relationship, domestic violence relationship, pay attention to the signs. And if you're dealing with a narcissistic person, the best thing for you to do is to get out of the relationship, because they're never going to change unless they get help. And they must admit first that there's a problem. And until they do that, they're never going to change, because they feel as though they're never wrong. Everyone else is wrong but them. They appear not to even have feelings or concern for others. And they always try to control you. They always try to find faults with you. So once the victim flees the home, and if you're in an abusive situation, make a plan. Because a lot of times when you're escaping the home, and especially you have children, you don't have time to grab certain things. You don't have time to grab in certain important papers, clothes and passports and social security cards. So you should keep these things in a safe place. Have an extra phone, because a lot of times when you're in a domestic violence situation, and once you tell the abuser you're calling the police, if you have a landline phone, they're going to pull it out of the wall. If you have a cell phone, they're going to take it, throw it against the wall, or smash it on the floor, whatever, to keep you from calling the police. Then there's such a thing as the honeymoon stage. They'll go out after the abuse. They'll go out and buy you flowers, take you out to dinner, or cook you a nice dinner. If they can cook, they'll do all kind of things to try to convince you that they're going to change and they're never going to do it again. But that's not true, because they strive on control. And this is just what they do. So like I said, sometimes you flee the home because you want to get out the situation, and you either wind up coming back, or you wind up in the street, actually sleeping in the streets and sleeping in tents. You see it more and more because you can't get help. You have your children with you, and they're out there in the cold. So I'm saying that to say this, because I could say a whole lot more, but like I said before, this camera on the phone's acting up. I don't want it to cut off. But what I'm trying to say, that if you see these homeless people in the street, don't judge them. Don't say, oh, they're there because they want to be there, or because they're on drugs and alcohol and all these other reasons. There's so many reasons why people are homeless. When you see these young people, these young kids that have ran away from home, sometimes it's because they don't want to listen to the parents, but it's a lot of times it's because they come out of an abusive home. Physical abuse, mental and sexual. So they run away and they wind up in the streets, and then a lot of times when they wind up homeless, they get the abuse all over again from people in the street. They get physically abused, mentally abused, sexually abused. So a lot of times when people are homeless out here, it's not because they want to be. There's all types of reasons why. And I have a couple of stories to tell, but like I said, I just want to say this for now and end this video because before it cuts off. And before it cuts off, I still want to remind you to stay covered up, please, because it is getting worse as I speak. And I know most of you look at the news, so you know what's going on. You know it's getting worse. So don't slip up. Stay covered up. Enjoy your holiday at home. By yourself or with the people that are there in the house with you. Don't invite other people in. Do a virtual Thanksgiving, a virtual Christmas. You know, they can get the gifts later or mail them the gifts or whatever it takes. But just stay out your way. Also, I want you to like, share, and subscribe and hit that button so that you'll be notified of another video. So I just wanted to get all that in before this cuts off. But as far as the homeless people, you know, don't walk past them all the time like they're invisible and look at them and turn up your nose or whatever. You never know what they're going through and what they've been through. And you never know what you may go through, especially with this world the way it is today. I mean, we're very, very close, a paycheck away from being homeless ourselves in a lot of cases. So if you can't lend a listening ear, sometimes take time and talk to a homeless person. Give them $1 or two so they can get a snack. Buy them a lunch. And if you really can afford to, pay for a hotel overnight for them to spend the night so they can sleep comfortably in the bed instead of on the ground. Winter time is coming. And you see them more and more lined up, taking up whole blocks both sides of the street. And I lay here sometimes and I envision it, being homeless. And it's a double whammy if you have children out there sleeping in the streets. All because you're running from an abusive situation. So, again, if you in an abusive situation, try to put a couple dollars aside that your abuser knows nothing about, because if you have to flee the home, you'll have something to eat off of. Maybe you've saved enough where you can get a couple nights in a hotel or a motel. Make sure you have all your important papers in a safe place. So if you have to flee the home, you can grab them. Maybe, if your mother's still alive, you can keep things at your mother's house. Take your child or children's favorite book or their favorite toy or something to keep them occupied. And all your important papers and medical records, school records, whatever important papers you may have that you're going to need when you flee the home. And if you have to, get a protection order. Because once you flee the home, it's not going to be over right away, because then they're going to stalk you. And don't let them find out if you done gotten into a new relationship. And I wouldn't advise you to get into a new relationship right away, because that's the mistake a lot of people make, whether they're in an abusive situation or not. They break off, they get out of one relationship, and they automatically jump into another one before they even clear their head from the last relationship they were in. They jump into a new relationship and think that's going to be perfect. And sometimes it's no better and maybe worse than the last relationship you were in. Take a time to breathe. Take time to be you before you try to satisfy someone else. You got to satisfy yourself. You got to make yourself happy before you can make someone else happy. And no one can make you happy better than yourself. But I just want to say that to say, just please, y'all, If you can't do no more than just pray for homeless people in general, because it's getting worse out here and nobody wants to be sleeping in the street. But I'm going to end it right now because I'm going to try to catch it before this video stops. And I'll just come back with more of it tomorrow because I have a couple of stories to tell concerning domestic abuse. So if you're in a domestic situation or you know someone that is in one, please get them help. I'm going to leave the number down in the description box that you can call if you're in a domestic violence situation or if you know of someone else that is. There's a 24-hour hotline, and there's plenty of resources out there that can help you. Now, I don't know how full shelters may be right now, and I don't know, I can't tell you anything about that right now, but you can always call that hotline number and find out. They have legal help, they have counseling, and they can just help you get a clean start. Anything is better than staying in that abusive situation because sooner or later it could be worse. It could be worse than getting hit or slapped around all the time because there's a lot of homicides out there involving domestic abuse